Today we begin our preparation for what I think is a fantastic Auburn team. Very physical up front, offensive line, defensive line. They got a back that's playing at a really high level. They've got a quarterback who's got an extremely strong arm and does a tremendous job throwing the ball vertical down the field. And I think Kevin's done a really good job defensively. I think the numbers show that. They're really physical up front. They do a great job. They've always been good on special teams under Gus, and they've got a good all-around football team. And obviously the environment to play over there, I've been there a lot throughout my coaching career. They get it loud in there, and they do a really good job creating the environment, and they feed off that. So the challenges are in front of us. We're going to find out a lot about this team playing on the road. It's a tough place to play against a really good football team.
Kirby, you mentioned that environment playing there. You've been a part of some historic games there, from the overtime game to the kick six. Can you kind of, how well do you remember those games? And then, what is it like to play there? What is it like to, what's the challenges of playing in a venue like that?
Well, it's the same challenge as it is at most SEC places. It's just a little bit louder, and they got a good team. The better the team is, the tougher the place to play is, and their fans get loud, get rowdy. They're there pregame to the end, and there have been some really loud moments playing in that stadium, and I don't expect it to be any different Saturday.
Coach, this is probably going to be the toughest offensive line you guys will have seen since going up to Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah, by far. It's the combination of, it's not just the O-line, it's the quarterback who can put them in the right play, makes good decisions, got a great arm talent. The back that you got to tackle, he's running wild on people. He'll bounce out. He'll hit it up inside. He runs with great toughness. Physical. I've seen this kid grow for a long time. Watched him play all through high school. He's become a really, really, really good back. And they do a good job of using his strengths. Their fullback doesn't get much credit. Chandler Cox, he does a great job blocking for them. And they've got more speed at wideout this year than they've had in the past, and I actually think they get to use it because of the quarterback, his strengths. So the combination of that with a good offensive line, it's really a recipe for what Gus has been wanting, which I think indicates their offensive numbers.
Kirby, follow up on what Auburn does vertically. How is it different? Because if you go back to that Iron Bowl 3 years ago, Nick Marshall and Sammy Coates and Duke Williams, they could attack vertically. How do they do it this year? Is it different? Are there similarities? How does that kind of compare?
Well, there's similarities for sure. I think Nick's ability to run the ball, the quarterback run game, is a little bit different. Garrett's a really good athlete, and he can run it. They don't ask him to run it as much, but he certainly can, and he's done some things to pull the ball. But they have vertical passing. They've always had vertical passing game. It's just a matter of having the right guy to throw it to them, and they've got that guy now, and they do a great job of it.
Coach, you have spoken on how Cameron Isaac has kind of been an asset to the special teams this year. But he's only here to the end of the season. So how has he how has he helped develop guys like Marshall Long and Bill Rupright and those guys that might have to take that position over next year?
Well, I think his maturity. The way in which he practices. He practices the right way. He has those guys, they interact, they help each other. They spend a lot of time together. He's very businesslike. He has a schedule he's set to each week, when he kicks, how much he kicks. And I think those guys can mimic that and take a lot from that. And hopefully some of that rubs off on our younger kickers, because we're going to have a hole to fill when he leaves.
Coach, it's still hard to get past, for me, that first game against Clemson, they give up 11 sacks. That's just an unbelievable number. What have you seen that they did after that, and how does pressuring the passer, how much does that mean to your defense in this game in particular?
Well, I think there's a little misnomer there with that, because when you watch that game, they're not the same team now that they were then. They're not the same offensive line now that they were then. Clemson certainly has some really elite rushers, and they got after them. It was also their quarterback's first time playing at Auburn in a big game in a situation like that. So I don't really go much off that. And Clemson has their personnel, and they play the way they play, and we have our personnel, and we play the way we play, and they're not always the same. So Clemson did a tremendous job getting pressure. We need to get pressure. We need to affect the quarterback, but you also have to cover the guys that they have out there running the routes. And they've got some really fast guys out there running those routes. So big thing is stopping the run and not giving up big plays.
Kirby, what are some of the things that you stress to your defense this week when you have to face an offense that is as balanced as Auburn's?
Keeping the edges, making sure that they run between the tackles and you tackle well. I mean, at the end of the day, he can go where he wants to go with the ball because he's got great speed. He gets out. A lot of his runs last year, even on us, were bounce out and broke out and does a good job doing that. And we got to keep him cut off on the back end. I mean, they know the defenses we're going to play. Gus has seen the defenses we play for 7, 8 years, it seems like. And we know the run plays they're going to run. They're not going to reinvent the wheel. We've got to go out there and play blocks, tackle the man with the ball, not give up big plays.
Kirby, I'm over in the corner. Kind of a two-part question. What have you found to be your best ways toward keeping this team grounded in the moment? And since Saturday, has there been any mention in the building here of winning the SEC East?
Well, I really haven't gotten together as a team since Saturday. So, all that broke out afterwards, and we've got team meetings and things today, but that's not been a major concern for us. Our concern has always been on the next opponent, and that's really where we are kind of now. As for what was the beginning of the question?
Well, just what have you found to be most effective as far as keeping this team grounded?
I think the messaging that we create and pass down through the staff and through the leaders in the group is talking to them so that they relay the message to the rest of the team. Has been the best, most effective way to get the point across, is to have those guys do it and not us do it ourselves. And when they do it, they take ownership in it. And we've had them write some things down, and then we pass that out and let the players see it, because it's easier to write it down sometimes than to say it for a kid that's not used to getting up in front of the team. But we've tried different tactics just to stay focused. Ultimately, it boils down to preparation week by week, and we'll continue to do that this week.
Has Javon Wims' development as a wide receiver been about what you envisioned, in this stage in his career, and how much more trust does the coaching staff have on him now versus before the season?
I think you earn trust, and he's earned the ability to catch the ball, protect the ball, go up and get the ball. He's worked really hard to improve. He continues to improve with his blocking and his physicality. He's got to continue to improve on every part of his game. But he's done a nice job, and ultimately he's given Jake a comfort zone that he's got a go-to guy, and Terry's done a good job with that as well. The wideouts, we talked early in the year, they got to catch the ball when it's thrown to them. They got to take advantage of the opportunities that these backs give them, because at the end of the day, some of the looks they get are based on the backs, and they got to catch the ball, and those two guys have done that.
Kirby, in terms of decision-making, how has Jake Fromm progressed from the beginning of the year to now, and in what ways do you still need to see him grow?
Well, I mean, he from the beginning of the year, he's done well with decision-making. I think playing in the Notre Dame environment was really good for him, because that was one of the tougher environments. Early in the Tennessee game was that way. But he continues to improve each day, and this will be another tough environment that he's got to make good decisions. He's got to execute the plan. He's got to be able to give the playmakers the ball, and as long as he does those things and makes good decisions, we're a pretty good football team, because we can complement defense, special teams, and offense. But he's got to continue to do that.
Kirby, I guess Natrez is due back this week. How has he handled the last few weeks? And with the way Reggie's played the last couple weeks, does Natrez not automatically slide back into his old starting spot?
Yeah, his discipline, be handled internally like it always is. He's been practicing with us the last couple weeks. He'll continue to practice with us, and that competition will continue to go on.
Kirby, this is the first time Georgia has been undefeated this late in the season for a while, but you experienced that a little bit in your time at Alabama. How does that kind of help you as a coach here at Georgia to help your players who haven't really been through that quite yet?
Well, I don't know. I think the experience does help. I think a veteran team that's had it happen before usually manages it better than a team for the first time. But sometimes it can work in reverse, where you come to expect that and you get comfortable with that, and you don't respect it. And these kids, that's kind of been the case. Our group has taken ownership, and they've really tried to own the burden of this by preparing the right way. And we try to manage it as coaches. You don't want to belabor the point, but they get it. They know they're getting ready to go play a good team, and they know where we are as a team. So I think all those things help.
Kirby over here. Following up on Jake, what told you? I mean, we see more freshmen now getting chances as true freshmen to play quarterback. We saw Hurts last year, but still a position that you don't normally put a guy in right out of high school. What told you that he could handle that and has allowed him to handle that as well as he has stepping right in there in the first game?
I think the high school programs across the country have come so far. I mean, they throw so much. They do so much competitive 7-on-7. He grew up in a system that his coach goes and met with every college coach in the country because he wanted to learn. So it wasn't like he was not comfortable throwing and passing the ball and checking runs and doing things. So that complexity of high school football and development of high school football has allowed him to come in more prepared, as well as other quarterbacks across the country. They come in more prepared to do it.
Is there anything that he just shows though, from personality-wise that I mean, you've read a lot of it, his maturity, and you don't necessarily look at him as a freshman if you meet him for the first time or talk to him. Is there something about him that stood out to you?
I think that's just his personality. He's been that way his whole life. He's got a lot of intangibles. He's a really good leader. He's not afraid of competition. Baseball, I mean, kids that grow up playing multiple sports like that and they've just been around it, he's not intimidated by the moment. And I think that comes a lot from his upbringing and just his competitive nature.
Coach, these two teams seem very similar, especially offensively. What do those similarities like? How does that help your team, those similarities? And then what challenges does that bring to your team in preparing for this Auburn team?
Well, I think the similarities help in that you get to practice against each other some. You know, you get to look and go against each other. You got to be very careful how you manage that and how much you do good on good, but it helps the likeness of the two. And there's some similarities defensively as well. So that part's good. How it hurts you, I don't really know that it does. I think at the end of the day, they run their plays, we run our plays. It boils down to guys who's going to make the play on the ball when they throw it deep. Same way for them. Who's going to make the tackle in the open field? Who's not going to turn the ball over? And who's going to play well on special teams? And those are things that we're going to try to focus on and get better at to prepare them for the game. It's not going to be a magic dust that we sprinkle on them. It's not going to come down to where the game's played. It's going to boil down to the players making plays, and we got to do a good job putting them in a situation that they can do that. They can execute and perform well.
Kirby, I guess this is a follow-up from what you talked about with the RPOs after Saturday's game. When Jim sends in a play and Jake looks at the defense, if I've got that right, if you're standing on the sidelines, what percent of the time, I mean, do you know what it's going to be when the ball is snapped? Do you know on the sideline that it's going to be a run or a pass, and how close to 100% do you know what it's going to be, or if Jake, doesn't put you in the right thing?
No, we know based on the look, but again, he could decide to do different based on what he sees, and that's why it's really important the person in that position understands the gravity of which would they affect the game, and that's true all across college football. I mean, they have the same option. They have a quarterback that decides whether to hand it off or run it on most plays, and I think that's the age of football we live in now. It's nothing new. It's been that way for quite a while. You just want a trigger man that makes good decisions and understands the game, has instincts.
The shoe's kind of on the other foot in terms of this rivalry, where it's been well documented by now. You addressed the Florida and the way that it had gone through with this senior class. Do you do the same with the fact that they've never lost to these guys?
Not really. I mean, I think our message has always been the past doesn't affect the present, and that message is still true. What would any game in the past against Auburn have anything to do with this game? I don't know that it does, because I don't think their team is anything like it was the last 3 years, and I don't think our team is anything like it was. So past doesn't affect the present. The present will affect the present, and what we do in the present matters a lot.
Kirby, concerning Terry Godwin and the fumble on Saturday, I mean, you guys haven't done a whole lot of that, but how do you handle those specific situations? I know DeAndre's had a couple as well. How do you handle those with the players? Is it more of a firm approach? Is it more of an encouraging approach? And kind of what's the message there?
It's very technical. I mean, what did you do wrong? How could you do it better? How do you do it better next time? and that's the best thing you can do with those kids. Be technical. Is what did I technically do wrong? Not anything else.
What does it say about the depth at inside linebacker, or maybe just the talent level on the defense that you guys have had a starter gone for the last several games and really haven't dropped off too much defensively in terms of your performance?
Well, it says that our coach is getting guys prepared well. I certainly think that we've had to play some guys that maybe in a day and time when they might not be ready have had to step up and play, but they've got pretty good players in front of them. They've got good players around them. They understand the system. And I think that's always the case. You want to be able to do that. We haven't played great or really well at some spots. We've given up some plays because of guys being out. But at the end of the day, they continue to improve, and hopefully it'll pay off for us later on, the fact those young guys got to play. Thanks.